You know what they say about humans? Nothing good, if you are smart. But here I am 3 standard cycles later, still trying to explain how one scraggly biped with a piece of burning wood managed to turn our entire invasion fleet into cosmic debris. Yeah, you heard that right. One human. One torch. One very, very bad day for the galactic hegemony. But I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Let me back up and tell you how this whole mess started, because trust me, you are going to want to sit down for this one. The call came in on a Tuesday. Well, what humans call Tuesday anyway. We had just finished mopping up the Zentari resistance in the Outer Rim when High Command decided Earth was next on the menu. Easy pickings, they said. Primitive species, they said. They still use combustion engines and throw rocks at each other, they said. I should have known right then that we were walking into a nightmare. See, the thing about the galactic hegemony is that we have gotten really, really good at conquering planets. We have perfected it, actually. Show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, vaporize a few cities to prove we are serious, and boom, new colony world. We'd done it 847 times before Earth. 847 victories. Perfect record. Should have quit while we were ahead. The initial reconnaissance reports were encouraging, I suppose. 3rd planet from a yellow dwarf star. 71% water coverage. Bipedal species, average height 1.7 meters. Approximately 7 billion individuals scattered across 7 continental landmasses. No unified planetary government. No energy shields. No antimatter weapons. No faster-than-light travel. In other words, a Tuesday morning warm-up. Admiral Zephyros, may his particles rest in scattered peace, was commanding the operation. 3,000 ships, enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Standard hegemony doctrine called for maybe 50 vessels for a primitive world, but Zephyros was ambitious. He wanted Earth-glassed and colonized before lunch. Crixus, he told me over the comm as we dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of their solar system. This is going to be the easiest conquest in hegemony history. I bet these humans don't even have space-based defenses. He was right about that last part, at least. What they did have was something far, far worse. They had Marcus Kane. Now, I need you to understand something about Marcus Kane. At the time, we didn't even know his name. He was just one more thermal signature among billions, living in a small settlement called Riverside in what humans call Montana. The population 437 souls. Average age 52 standard years. Primary industries agriculture and something called craft beer brewing. Not exactly what you'd call a military stronghold. Marcus himself was even less impressive on paper. 41 years old. Former something called a park ranger. Lived alone in a cabin about 3 kilometers outside town. No military training. No advanced weaponry. No communication devices more sophisticated than an electromagnetic radiation receiver. They call a radio. The most dangerous thing in his possession, according to our scans, was a chemical projectile weapon with an effective range of maybe 200 meters. Oh, and a torch. An actual, primitive, combustible torch made of wood and petroleum-soaked fabric. We should have been laughing. Instead, 3 hours later, I was watching my commanding officer's flagship explode like a dying star, while Marcus Kane stood on a hilltop, holding that ridiculous torch above his head like some kind of ancient war banner. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. The invasion began exactly as planned. Zephyros positioned the fleet in a standard blockade formation around Earth. 300 ships per continental grouping, with the command vessel taking position directly above what the humans call North America. The psychological impact alone should have been enough to trigger immediate surrender talks. It didn't. Instead, the humans did something we'd never encountered before in 847 previous conquests. They looked up at our ships, shrugged, and went back to whatever they were doing. No panic, no mass evacuations, no frantic attempts to contact us. They just ignored us. Sir, reported Lieutenant Vex from the sensor station. We are detecting no significant change in planetary activity patterns. Traffic flows remain normal. Industrial output is unchanged. Even their military installations appear to be operating under standard protocols. Zephyros frowned at the main display, where Earth hung like a blue-green marble dotted with the lights of human civilization. Maybe they haven't noticed us yet. That's when the first radio transmission came through. "Attention alien vessels," came a gravelly voice, speaking in what our universal translator identified as English. "This is Houston Space Center. We can see you up there. Nice ships. You folks lost or something?" The bridge fell silent. In 847 conquests, no one had ever asked if we were lost. Zephyros cleared his throat and activated the communication array. "This is Admiral Zephyros of the Galactic Hegemony. I am speaking to the leaders of the planet you call Earth. You will surrender immediately and prepare for occupation. Or we will be forced to demonstrate our superior firepower." There was a pause. Then, "Hold on there, Admiral. Let me get this straight. You flew all the way out here just to pick a fight? That seems like an awful lot of trouble to go to." Another pause. "Also, it's lunchtime and we are having tacos. You want to maybe circle back in an hour or two?" I watched Zephyros's face cycle through approximately 7 different shades of purple. Did they just ask us to reschedule our invasion?" "I believe so, sir. That should have been our first warning. Any species that treats an alien invasion as a minor scheduling inconvenience is not a species you want to tangle with." But Zephyros was determined to stick to the timetable. "Target their largest population center," he ordered. "Minimal yield, just enough to get their attention." "Sir," Lieutenant Vex hesitated. "Sensors indicate their largest population center contains over 12 million individuals." "Did I stutter, Lieutenant?" The weapons officer charged the main battery and fired a single pulse at what humans call New York City. "Low power, just enough to vaporize maybe a city block or two. Standard intimidation protocol." The beam lanced down through Earth's atmosphere, a brilliant shaft of destructive energy that should have left a crater where Manhattan used to be. Instead, it hit something and bounced right back at us. Not reflected, not absorbed. Bounced, like throwing a ball against a wall. The deflected beam punched through the hull of the destroyer Vengeance, like it was made of tissue paper. 200 crew members gone in an instant. "What in the 7 hells was that?" Zephyros shouted. "Unknown, sir. Energy beam appears to have encountered some form of defensive barrier around the target area." "Impossible. Scans showed no shield generators." "Confirmed, sir. No artificial barriers detected. The deflection appears to have been caused by—" Lieutenant Vex paused, checking his readings again. "By the city itself, sir." That's when the second radio transmission came through. "Hey, Admiral Zephyros. This is Mayor Bloomberg in New York. Thanks for the light show, but we have got a Yankees game starting in 20 minutes, and your laser beam thingy is blocking the view from the bleachers. Mind pointing that somewhere else?" I saw something die in Zephyros's eyes at that moment. Some fundamental belief about how the universe worked. In 847 conquests, no one had ever complained about property damage to their sports entertainment facilities. "How are they doing that?" he whispered. None of us had an answer. The third transmission came from Montana, specifically from a small radio station in Riverside, broadcasting on what humans call the AM frequency band. "Good afternoon, folks. This is Dale Peterson with KREV, your voice in the valley. Looks like we have got some visitors from outer space parked overhead today. I have got Marcus Kane on the line. Marcus, you are up on Sunset Ridge. What do you see?" A different voice came on, calm and steady. "Well, Dale, I count about 300 ships up there. Pretty impressive light show they put on over New York a few minutes ago. Looked like fireworks. Any thoughts on what they want, Marcus?" "Hard to say, but I have got a feeling they are not here to sell magazine subscriptions." Zephyros leaned forward in his command chair. "Scan that transmission source. I want to know who's talking." The sensor data came back within seconds. One human male, alone on a hilltop, approximately 15 kilometers from the main population center. No weapons detected except for that primitive projectile launcher. No communication equipment beyond a simple radio transmitter. Sir, Lieutenant Vex reported, the individual appears to be holding some kind of burning stick. A what? Combustible material wrapped around a wooden shaft, sir. Primitive illumination device. Thermal signature suggests petroleum-based accelerant. Zephyros stared at the display for a long moment. He's standing on a hill, in the middle of an alien invasion, holding a torch. Yes, sir. Why? Unknown, sir. That's when Marcus Kane made his first mistake. Or maybe it was our first mistake. I'm still not sure which. He started walking. Not running, not hiding. Walking. Down the hill, toward the town of Riverside, carrying that ridiculous torch like he was heading to some kind of ancient ceremony. What's he doing? Zephyros demanded. Uncertain, sir. Thermal tracking shows him moving at approximately 5 kilometers per hour toward the population center. Is he evacuating? Negative, sir. He appears to be taking his time. Zephyros made a sound somewhere between a growl and a laugh. One human, one torch. And he thinks he can just stroll through our invasion like he's out for an evening walk. Orders, sir? The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Let's see how brave he is when he realizes what he's up against. Target the individual. Single pulse. Minimum power. Just enough to get his attention. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, regulations prohibit targeting individual combatants with ship-based weapon systems. Did you just tell me what regulations prohibit, Lieutenant? No, sir. Targeting individual now. The beam lanced down from the destroyer Retribution, a pencil-thin line of energy that should have vaporized Marcus Kane where he stood. Instead, something impossible happened. The human reached up with his free hand and caught the beam. Caught it, like he was plucking an apple from a tree. The energy weapon, capable of punching through 3 meters of reinforced armor plating, just stopped, held in the palm of a human hand like a length of rope. Then Marcus Kane smiled, took the energy beam, and lit his torch with it. Well, I will be damned, came his voice over the radio. That's handy. Thanks for the light, boys. The bridge of the flagship went dead silent, except for the hum of life support systems. Did he just? Someone whispered. Use our weapons to light his torch. I finished. Yeah, he did. Zephyros stood up slowly, his face cycling through colors that didn't have names in any language I knew. All ships, he said quietly into the comm. All ships. This is Admiral Zephyros. Target the human settlement designated Riverside. Full bombardment. I want that town and everything in it, reduced to subatomic particles. Sir, Lieutenant Vex interrupted. That's over 400 civilian casualties. I'm aware of the casualty count, Lieutenant. Admiral, I found myself saying, maybe we should reconsider this approach. The humans are demonstrating capabilities we don't understand. Perhaps negotiation would be more appropriate. Zephyros turned to look at me, and I saw something in his expression that made my blood run cold. Fear. Naked. Primal fear. Crixes, he said softly. In 847 conquests, no one has ever caught one of our energy beams with their bare hands. No one has ever used our own weapons to light their campfires. And no one has ever asked us to reschedule an invasion because they were having lunch, he pointed at the display, where Marcus Kane continued his leisurely stroll toward Riverside, torch held high. That human down there isn't afraid of us. He should be terrified. He should be running and screaming and begging for mercy. Instead, he's treating this like a minor inconvenience. Do you know what that means, Admiral Crixis? I had a sinking feeling I did, but I asked anyway. What does it mean, sir? It means we have made a terrible mistake, and that human with the torch, he's going to make us pay for it. Zephyros turned back to the weapons console. All ships, fire on my command. Full bombardment. Target designation Riverside, Montana. Authorization code Omega-77. 300 ships charged their main batteries simultaneously. Enough firepower to crack a continent. Marcus Kane reached the edge of town just as the weapons powered up. He stopped walking and looked up at the sky, shading his eyes with his free hand. The torch flickered in the evening breeze. "You know what, Dale?" he said into his radio. "I think these folks might be serious after all." "What are you going to do, Marcus?" Marcus Kane planted the torch in the ground beside him and rolled up his sleeves. "Well," he said, "I reckon I'm going to have to teach them some manners." That's when everything went straight to hell. From the personal logs of Admiral Crixus Vorth, Galactic Hegemony Fleet Command, you want to know what 300 ships firing simultaneously sounds like? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Space doesn't carry sound, remember? But somehow, as I watched those energy beams lance down toward Riverside, Montana, I swear I could hear the universe itself holding its breath. Marcus Kane stood there, torch planted beside him like some ancient battle standard, sleeves rolled up like he was getting ready to fix a leaky faucet instead of facing down the combined firepower of the Galactic Hegemony's Third Fleet. The beams hit exactly 3.7 seconds after Zephyros gave the command. I know because I was counting. 3.7 seconds for light-speed weapons to travel from orbit to surface. 3.7 seconds that should have been the last moments of human civilization. Instead, they were the first moments of something else entirely. The energy beam struck an invisible barrier, about 50 meters above Riverside, and simply stopped. Not reflected, not absorbed, stopped. Like they hit a wall made of solid nothing. 300 streams of destructive force just hung there in the air, crackling with contained fury. "What in the name of the void?" Zephyros whispered. Then Marcus Kane reached up, grabbed all 300 beams in his bare hands, and braided them together like he was making rope. "I'm not exaggerating!" The human actually braided our weapon's fire, wove it together into a single massive energy construct that pulsed with more power than most star systems generate in a year. "Well now," came his voice over the radio, calm as someone commenting on the weather. "That's quite a light show you boys put on. Mind if I borrow this for a minute?" Before anyone could answer, Marcus Kane wound up like he was throwing a baseball and hurled the braided energy beam straight back at us. Not at one ship, at all of us. The construct split apart in the vacuum of space, dividing itself into exactly 300 individual seeking projectiles, each one locked onto a different vessel in our fleet, each one carrying enough power to vaporize a city block. "Evasive maneuvers," Zephyros screamed. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Too late." The seeking beams moved faster than our ships could turn. They struck simultaneously across the entire fleet, not to destroy, but to deliver a message. Each beam carved a single word into the hull of its target ship. The same word, repeated 300 times across 300 vessels. "Please." That's it. Just please. Burned into reinforced battle armor like a polite request carved in stone. The bridge fell silent, except for damage reports flooding in from across the fleet. No casualties, no hull breaches, no system failures. Just 300 ships carrying the same one-word message. "Sir," Lieutenant Vex reported, his voice shaky. "We have an incoming transmission from the surface." "Put it through," Zephyros said. Marcus Kane's voice filled the bridge, still maddeningly calm. "Now then, Admiral Zephyros, I believe we got off on the wrong foot here. Name's Marcus Kane. I live in that little town you just tried to vaporize. Beautiful place, Montana. You should visit sometime, when you are not trying to blow it up." "What do you want?" Zephyros demanded. "Well, sir, I want you and your friends to pack up your ships and head on home. Earth's not looking for new management at the moment. We are doing just fine on our own. And if we refuse..." There was a pause. A long, meaningful pause that somehow contained more menace than all our weapons combined. "Admiral," Marcus said finally, "you really don't want to find out what happens if you refuse?" Zephyros laughed. Actually, laughed. "You are one human with a torch. We have 3,000 ships." "Had," Marcus corrected gently. "You had 3,000 ships. Looks like you are down to about 300 now." "What are you talking about?" "Check your sensors, Admiral." Lieutenant Vex's hands flew over his console, then went very, very still. "Sir," he whispered, "long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures throughout the solar system. It appears that our reserve fleets, they are gone. Sir. Gone. What do you mean gone? I mean they are not there anymore, sir. All of them. The Second Fleet stationed near Jupiter, the Fourth Fleet at the asteroid belt, the Fifth Fleet in high orbit around Mars, 2,700 ships, just gone. Zephyros turned to stare at the display showing Marcus Kane, still standing calmly beside his torch. How? Trade secret, Marcus replied cheerfully, but I will give you a hint. You know that old saying about not bringing a knife to a gunfight? Well, you boys brought guns to a Marcus Kane fight. That rarely ends well for the guns. This is impossible, Zephyros shouted. No single individual can defeat an entire fleet. The laws of physics don't allow it. Oh, the laws of physics are fine, Marcus said. It's your understanding of them that's a little lacking. See, you folks have been conquering planets for so long, you have forgotten something important. And what's that? You have forgotten to ask why those planets let you conquer them. The words hit the bridge like a physical blow. Let us conquer them. What did that mean? Marcus Kane picked up his torch and started walking again, this time toward the center of Riverside. His voice continued over the radio, conversational and friendly. You see, Admiral, there's something you need to understand about humans. We are not like other species you have encountered. We don't roll over and play dead when someone bigger shows up. We don't surrender just because the odds are against us, and we sure as hell don't appreciate uninvited guests. Trying to redecorate our planet with craters. You are bluffing, Zephyros said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Tell you what, let's find out. I'm going to make you a deal, Admiral. One chance to walk away from this with your ships and your crew intact. Turn around, fly home, and never come back. Do that, and everyone gets to go home to their families tonight. And if we don't... Marcus Kane stopped walking. He planted his torch in the ground again, and looked up at the sky. Even from orbit, even through electronic displays and sensor readings, I could feel his gaze like a physical weight. If you don't, he said quietly, then I'm going to show you why Earth has never been conquered. Why, in 4.5 billion years of existence, this little blue planet has never once knelt to any force in the universe. And Admiral, what? You are not going to like the lesson. Zephyros's face went through that color spectrum again, purple to green to something approaching transparent. You are one human, he screamed. One human against 300 ships. Actually, came a new voice over the radio. He's not alone. The transmission source triangulated to Riverside's main street. Another human, this one female, standing outside what appeared to be a drinking establishment. Name's Betty Morrison, the voice continued. I run Morrison's Bar and Grill. Marcus, honey, you need backup down there? I appreciate the offer, Betty, but I think I can handle this. You sure? Because the whole town's ready to lend a hand if you need it. More voices joined the conversation. Dozens of them, hundreds, all coming from Riverside, all perfectly calm, all discussing an alien invasion like they were planning a community barbecue. Marcus, it's Jim Peterson. Got my hunting rifle if you need it. Sarah Chen here. I have got first aid supplies ready. This is Father Murphy. Been praying for peaceful resolution, but I have got a baseball bat if prayer doesn't work. Marcus, it's old Pete from the hardware store. Just so you know, we are all behind you on this one. The voices kept coming. 437 people standing together against an alien invasion like it was the most natural thing in the world. I watched Zephyros's expression change as the reality of the situation sank in. This wasn't one human with a torch. This was an entire community, united and unafraid. Impossible, he whispered. Civilian populations don't behave this way. They panic. They scatter. They beg for mercy. Human civilian populations do things differently, Marcus Kane said. We look out for each other. We stand together. And when someone threatens our home, we don't run. We fight. With what? Primitive weapons? Combustible torches? Marcus Kane smiled. I couldn't see it through the sensors, but somehow I knew he was smiling. Admiral, you have been thinking about this all wrong. You keep focusing on the torch, like it's some kind of weapon. It's not a weapon. It's a symbol. A symbol of what? Of light in the darkness. Of hope when things seem hopeless. Of human beings refusing to give up, no matter how bad things get. You see, Admiral, humans have been carrying torches for 100,000 years. Through ice ages and plagues, through wars and disasters, through every dark moment in our history. The torch represents something you don't understand. And what's that? It represents the fact that humans never ever give up. Marcus Kane lifted the torch high above his head, and something extraordinary happened. Every light in Riverside came on at once. Street lamps, house lights, car headlights, flashlights. The entire town blazed with illumination. But it didn't stop there. Lights began appearing across Montana, then across North America, then across the entire planet. Cities, towns, villages, remote outposts. 7 billion human beings turning on every light they had, creating a network of illumination that turned the night side of Earth into a constellation of defiance. Do you see it now, Admiral? Marcus asked. Do you understand what you are up against? From orbit, Earth looked like a jewel on fire, billions of points of light, each one representing a human being who refused to surrender. This is impossible, Zephyros whispered. How are they coordinated? How do they even know what's happening? Radio, television, internet, word of mouth, Marcus replied. Humans are very good at communication when it matters. Right now, every person on this planet knows that you tried to hurt our town. They know you threatened our families, and they are all asking the same question, which is, what are we going to do about it? That's when the ships started moving. Not our ships, Earth ships. Vehicles I didn't even know existed began rising from the planet's surface. Not sleek military vessels, but converted civilian craft. Cargo haulers, with weapons bolted to their hulls. Passenger liners bristling with improvised shields. Even what appeared to be recreational vehicles, modified for space travel and armed with mining equipment. Thousands of them, tens of thousands. A ragtag fleet of converted civilian craft rising to meet the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Sir, Lieutenant Vex reported, his voice barely above a whisper. Sensors detect approximately 50,000 vessels launching from the surface. They appear to be improvised. Improvised how? They are using everything, sir. Atomic rockets, ion drives, chemical propulsion, magnetic accelerators. Some of them appear to be running on internal combustion engines somehow modified for space travel. Zephyros stared at the tactical display as Earth's improvised fleet arranged itself in defensive formations around the planet. This is madness. Those ships can't possibly stand against our weapons. Want to bet? Marcus Kane asked. Before anyone could respond, the human fleet opened fire, not with energy weapons or antimatter torpedoes, but with projectiles, bullets, missiles, rockets, harpoons and things I couldn't even identify. A storm of kinetic projectiles that should have been harmless against our shields. Should have been. Instead, each projectile found its mark with impossible precision. They didn't penetrate our armor or overload our shields. They delivered messages, physical messages, written on paper and metal, taped to the projectiles like ancient mail delivery. The messages were all the same. Go home. This is humiliating. Zephyros screamed, we are being attacked with mail. No, I said quietly, watching the tactical display as more human ships continued to rise from Earth's surface. We are being given a choice. Marcus Kane's voice came over the radio one final time. Admiral Zephyros, you have seen what Earth can do when we are being polite. We have asked nicely. We have given you fair warning. We have even written you letters. But here's the thing about humans. Admiral, we only stay polite for so long. The torch in his hand blazed brighter, and across the planet, every light burned a little fiercer. You have got 60 seconds to start your engines and head home. After that, we stop, asking nicely. And then what? Zephyros demanded. Marcus Kane's answer was simple, direct, and absolutely terrifying. Then we show you why the rest of the galaxy leaves Earth alone. I looked at Admiral Zephyros, saw the defeat in his eyes, and made a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my career. All ships, I said, stepping forward. This is Admiral Crixus Vorth, assuming command. Prepare for immediate hyperspace jump. We are going home. Crixus, what are you doing? Zephyros whispered. What I should have done the moment that human caught our weapons fire with his bare hands, I replied. I'm getting us out of here while we still can. As our ships powered up their hyperspace drives, Marcus Kane's final words followed us into the void. Safe travels, Admiral Vorth. And remember, Earth's always open for visitors. Just make sure you knock next time. 3 years later, I'm still trying to explain to the Hegemony Council why we turned tail and ran from a single human with a torch. They don't believe me, of course. They think I'm making it up. They have even sent other fleets to Earth, convinced that what we experienced was some kind of elaborate hoax. Those fleets don't come back. But here's what I have learned in the time since our encounter with Marcus Kane. Earth isn't protected by advanced technology or superior firepower. It's protected by something far more dangerous than any weapon we have ever encountered. It's protected by humans who refuse to give up. And that, my friends, is why Marcus Kane became the legend that ended our galaxy's age of conquest. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but because when darkness came calling, he picked up a torch and refused to let the light go out. Sometimes that's all it takes to change everything. The galaxy learned that lesson the hard way. And now, whenever young recruits ask me about Earth and why it's marked as a no-fly zone on every star chart in known space, I tell them the same thing. It's not because of their weapons or their technology or their defenses. It's because of a man named Marcus Kane, who taught the entire galaxy a lesson with nothing but a torch and the unshakable belief that some things are worth fighting for. The torch still burns in Riverside, Montana. They tell me, a memorial to the day one human said no to the entire galaxy and made it stick. I hope it burns forever.